I'm telling you, that rhythm. We are gonna have to tweak that a little bit though.
So,
because I'm much better looking than the pictures that you used. You picked the worst pictures of me, I think. Oh, well, hello.
Well, it's actually video. So,
well, whichever. I think you captured the wrong angles. We'll see.
You're the one who published it originally.
Hey, I can't help it. I can't help it. Have you seen some of the stuff I've published over the past few years? It's been a little ridiculous.
I try not to.
I hear you. Yeah, I was watching this guy today. He was doing like this 3D printing thing, but he was using this really cool color printing material.
I heard it was some leftover stuff he didn't know how to get rid of.
That's what he says.
Yeah.
Well, how's it going, everybody? Vince, what's up, sir? How are you? That was 2 hours ago. Vince was overachiever today. Robbie Giglio, Harry Hodge, Darren Anton, Mike Thompson, Utini Designs, Dale Doves, Jason Cunningham, Jack in the Shop. Hello, sir. Chuck Forbes, Elaine, Nipa, Jim Pitts, Chris Gallagher from the Land Down Under. Mr. Jim Pitts again. Brian's in the house up there, ice fishing, I guess. You and Brian teaming up with you on the ice thing. Cornbread Crafts, hello. Peter Lepine, Chicago Bob, Don Lewis, Miss Sharon, Mark L, Tim Arthur, Jeremy Jordan, Double J Patriotic Design, Rob Fight, Michael Morley. Let's see who else. Who else we got? Roger Court, Multicraft Neo, Ralph Strawson, Patty Wright, Midnight Sunworks, Home Zero CNC, Robert Lowe, North Alabama Smoke, Jason Long from Indiana, Wade Mackey, Pennsylvania, Scott Johnson, hello from Nebraska, David Allen, the guy with a good name, Robert Davis, Greg Reynolds, Too Old to Do This, Daniel Skidmore, Billy Powell, Had Enough Okay, Tom Baker, Chuck Peterson, Mike, Don, Richard Shark, John Elliott. How many people we got in here? Whew.
130.
Oh, Lord. All right, I'm gonna try to push it in real fast. Richard Schnark, John Elliott, North Alabama Smoke again, Sandy K. Johnson, Merrill Carl Arbery. Okay, I messed that up. Sorry. I Gillette, Gary Campman, Chris Thompson, Martin O'Donnell, Wesley Bailey, April Thompson, Radu the Impaler, Gregory Awal. Sorry about that. Minnesota Custom Made, Dave Groschke, Greg Wilson Photography, ETLC. What's up, sir? John Painter. How are you? AGT Restore. Trent Taylor, Glenn Keys, Allie Buster. Oh my goodness. What is it with my spelling to my reading tonight? Thibodeau Services. That's got to be some Cajuns. Let's see. AGT Restore, Steve, Paul Nemeth. Okay, and we're cutting it off from there. I've got everybody that's in the comment section so far. I gotta have something to drink. Steve, carry on.
Hi, everyone. Well, it's not super freezing cold here for a change. All that ice we got, real ice, normal ice, did actually mostly melt away today. So,
Brian, no, I don't have the Maker World thing. I don't know. Do you have one, Steve? Do you know? I mean, are you sure I know what you're talking about? Isn't that like on
the only that's the bamboo
xTool
thing, I believe,
or bamboo?
I think the only thing I've put out there is the little block that I made for the MK2 laser to hold the focus tool and the USB drive. I suppose I could throw out some of these other things. So today I made brackets to hold the honeycomb in place on the Monport Reno. So did that. I linked to it just off my Google Drive. Yeah, I'll actually throw it in there.
When you need to make a basket that's bigger than your work area, it fits in a hole in the OMTech. Unfortunately, its intended purpose, it's still not how I like it. So, but it did fit exactly the way it was supposed to. But this is like 14 hours worth of printing.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a camera on a stick.
Yeah.
What a coincidence. I have a Steve on a stick. That's right. Steve on a stick.
Well, people are asking what was in the OMTech box. And I had to wait a little bit because I was in the middle of other things, but if I can get this to show up, that is what is in the OMTech box.
Yoo-hoo! Fancy.
So this is their Maker 25. It's a 50-watt CO2. It's a 500 by 300 working area. And I'm using it with my old chiller. And so not quite the cool polar benchtop unit that Clack got, but this is the nice standard flatbed CO2 laser. It's similar to my old one, but it's got some other updates. It's a little bit smaller than my old one, but that's okay. And so, just was working on getting, I had to build this platform for it first because it doesn't come with a base. It's kind of meant to be built onto something else. So yesterday I kind of slapped that together with some extra plywood and just got the tube charged with water, got all the bubbles out of it, just did very initial tests. Matter of fact, that's the extent of what I've been able to do with it so far.
Well, that one does have a bed that goes up and down, right?
Yeah, it does. So it's not powered.
That's an advantage. Well, even though that's an advantage over the Polar that I've got. So, because I was actually hoping the Polar would be my new tumbler machine, but so far it hasn't beat out what I'm already using. It's a little. If it had a bed, adjustable bed, it would make it a lot better. So,
sure.
And that's the one that you built the little retainers for the honeycomb, right?
No, that was on that's on the Monport.
Okay. You got so many new machines over there. Hashtag Steve gets all the cool toys. I can't keep up. That's right. It was the Monport.
You've had just as many, if not more.
Now that one's got a little use on it. That honeycomb doesn't look exactly brand new. So
see if I can get this position just right. This is what I did. So these are 3D printed, and then I have some. If I can get it to show up front, I have a little L bracket there, so it keeps it from moving side to side and forward. It can still slide back, but I have to get creative to put something back here because this actually overhangs the
that I saw when you were showing that earlier. It was very tight back there on the back.
So, but that really locks it in place. So it'll allow me to start creating some fixtures and jigs to be able to key off of, which was why I kind of, it just sits in there otherwise and can slide around a little bit.
So on the back side, you could make like a little L piece that's got the adhesive and kind of put it under the bottom and hold it. I don't know how rugged that would be.
My main camera seems to be a little choppy. Well, yeah, but I want to be able to remove it. So I'm thinking about, a nail bracket. Maybe try to stick it to the back side of the frame.
Yeah, just to give it something to bump against.
But I don't know that it's needed. So
yeah.
We'll
now that's the way the Polar is the way the honeycomb's in it. It can't go side to side or or back. It can only come out the front. So, and as long as you double check it or make sure it doesn't move, it should be good. So that's cool.
I'm gonna do.
Y'all watched your video where you were Tinkercadding those. I'm gonna have to start playing with that software a little bit.
My camera's looking a little choppy on my end. Is it for you as well?
Your frame rate looks a little challenged. Not bad.
How's that? Is that better? That much better?
Well, yeah, that fixed it.
No,
it ain't choppy at all there. If you're like me, it's because of those extra cameras. You need to set them to deactivate when not in use.
There we go. Well, I also picked up, and this might help.
What is that? I couldn't see it.
Get it out of the bag. To help with that USB issue.
Oh, you got an expansion port there.
Yep. So 6 additional USB 3 and 2 USB-C. That should hopefully help out. So
that should curb a little bit of your need.
Yeah.
For a little while until you get much more stuff.
But so yeah, been working with the Reno 45 Pro, and of course, as I've been working with this, they then also brought out their 65, which is higher wattage, and instead of a 12 by 16, it's a 12 by 24 working area. So a nice working size on that one. So so if you're curious about a lower cost CO2, kind of a benchtop style as this one, this is kind of like if you were to take a K40 and do all the upgrades to it and still end up with a better laser, this is what you'd get. And so check out my video. I did it. I tried to have fun with it. I tried to do it. I made a bunch of Christmas projects instead of just like, here's a laser, let's go through some typical tests, this, that, and the other thing. I thought, let's try all these tests on real projects. So I cut some acrylic, I cut some 1/4-inch material, cut some 1/8-inch material, and then engraved some bamboo and other things to kind of give more of a real world projects, and a little more interesting for the people that might want to watch it for the other stuff, not necessarily in the market. So hopefully that.
Yeah, so you're saying that's the M40 you wish you had? Is that what you're saying? It's like the M40 with all the upgrades.
Well, yeah, because like you get the K40 or the M40, and you try to figure out a lifting bed, right? This one's got it. You figure out air assist. They started adding those to those, I think, recently, but typically you had to add them. It's got a larger working area, and then it's got the option of I think it's a Top Wisdom controller, but that's LightBurn compatible, or they've got their K40 style controller. So it has a lot of the things in there, and it comes with a honeycomb and the slap bed. So it's
cool.
Got a lot of the things that you would typically upgrade one of those for. I was in that boat. I was like, hey, a $300 laser, why don't I start with that? Then all of a sudden, by the time I was adding all the things that I should, it was $1,000 laser. So
the M40 wasn't a bad machine, but like you said, it was kind of like buying a stripped down vehicle or something. Like it had none of the creature comforts that you needed to make it fun, in my opinion.
Yeah, but
it's good to see. I'm curious to see, does it have a pass through, or is it tall enough to do tumblers?
The Monport?
Yeah.
So yeah, well, let me go into 2-bit mode, and
I saw where you pulled that little red slat out where you could slide material through there, but I didn't know if it was deep enough that you could actually do tumblers in there or not.
Oops, I gotta actually activate it. Sorry. Oh. All right, so you can pull the honeycomb out, and you've got some pretty good gap here, but you can also pull out this drum tray.
Okay, so you could 3D print some feet and get it as high as you wanted then.
And you could lift it up, but then it does also have, like you mentioned, this red bar up front. It isn't just to make it look like it's something from Star Wars. This does slide out, and now you can feed material in, but you can only come back so far. So it's a pass. I wouldn't call it a pass through. It's a shove the end of something bigger, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, they thought about a number of things.
Yeah, that's because the tumblers, like I said, the machine that size, the CO2, it would be ideal for tumblers because it's it's relatively small, not a big work area, but that would give you something that you could do with it. I was just curious because I know the old M40s, there was no way you were doing tumblers with them.
Yeah, when you got that open bottom with that tray, it does open up some more possibilities there.
Yeah, because I raised mine up. I don't know if you saw the. I think I sent you the pictures. I don't know if everybody else saw them, but I 3D printed me some legs to raise mine up a little bit. My OMTech, one, to give me a little storage underneath there so it don't gobble up all my shelf space, but secondly, so I could actually. It doesn't have a full bottom. It's not fully opened, but it does have a little small hole that you can sit stuff down in if you want to. That's what that little basket I made is for. To sit in that hole, and it was going to hold a chuck or a rotary, but I still haven't figured out the way to do those that I'm going to like better than the ones I'm already using. So
cool. But so yeah, probably going to do some more with this one yet. I may even actually take it into my basement workshop, so I have a CO2 down there as well. That's the nice thing about this one is it's a little more compact than like the P2 from xTool. Imagine the same thing as a you kind of did a size comparison on the Atomstack, and now you've got the Polar you can compare to. They're just a little bit wider.
The Polar's actually smaller than the Atomstack. I was surprised, like 2 inches. Like it lost 2 inches each direction, and the biggest way that I saw that they've from front to back is the work area is actually bigger than the Atomstack's usable work area. But it doesn't look like it because it's still kind of boxed in and closed up. But the way they did that is the tube is actually on the gantry of this machine. So the tube moves from the front of the machine to the back. And so you don't have that void where the tube would normally sit. It's actually part of the gantry. It's a little different. So far, the OMTech is working really well. I've been doing quite a bit of testing with it also.
Jim, if you're asking how much this Reno weighs, it's about 60 pounds, give or take. So it's one that I'd feel comfortable moving myself for the most part. You'd have to unhook the water lines going to the chiller, but other than that, I think I could move it myself.
Some test grids. The one thing I will say is I don't know what exactly they're doing with this thing, but it is doing probably the best job I've ever seen on acrylic. And basswood. It does have that yellow burn where I'm used, with the CO2s, you get more of the yellow. Now, if you get it hot enough, it turns brown. But I've been doing lots, playing with the focus, raising the focus, lowering the focus. That just got messy because I have found that it actually, when it's cutting, it likes the focus to be like -2 for some reason. I don't know why that is. But yeah, I have thrown all kinds of material at this machine to see exactly what it's capable of doing. Cardboard, because it came with a bunch of cardboard and stuff. And then this is all of the TruFlat stuff that I've been using. I've tested all of it. It's doing a really good job. Like I said, the only hang up that I have with it is it's a fixed bed, which a lot of these desktop CO2s are. That's why I was kind of impressed with the Monport that you have with with it being able to elevate it. But for what I use a CO2 for, I don't think that's a big hang up, but I was kind of hoping I could, I could have a new favorite tumbler machine. But I made some little ornaments, like you said, just to keep from just doing test grids. Made some ornaments. These are for some of the guys that work here near me. They're probably gonna want to snatch these up. And these for some folks at work. I mean, it does a good job. I also well, I just dropped that one. I also cut a few out of basswood just to see what kind of look I could get with the basswood. I'm really pleased with the performance so far. It's just kind of like we talked about, you know, the desktop machines don't have a lot of the bells and whistles sometimes, and you have to just kind of pick which bell and which whistle you want because you can't get them all. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there are benefits to both. You know, the desktop machines are a little more compact, but everything's really packed into them tight. So sometimes you don't have as much flexibility with aftermarket add-ons or even just replacing things in overflow work area too. So
I'm trying to read through some of these comments. That's right, Greg. 290. Oh, Steve's been helping me on some testing too back there. I didn't notice that. That's Steve on a stand. I got Steve on a stick and Steve on a stand.
Better hope I don't get a bunch of extra time this week.
I was testing the photo quality of the machines. Like, I actually did this one. Actually, everybody talks about photo quality. I actually did this one on the X40 Max. Woo.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Steve on a stick, I did with the OMTech. That's why he has more of a little bit of a yellow. I used some basswood to do Steve on a stick.
I love how neither of us ask each other for a photo. We just steal one from us.
I just screenshot. I was like, oh, that was a good pose. So I just screenshot you. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
And like, at least I didn't get that one that time where you froze in the live and you were like,
yeah. Well, I'm sure it wasn't quite high enough quality for testing your laser.
No, I found that one. I was like, that's a pretty good. The lighting was just right. I was like, I'll just snag that one.
Yeah. Mark, if you're asking about the parts I put in the Reno, no, I didn't put anything in for like locating fixtures. So the way I set up the honeycomb, it's similar to like with the Lasermatic. 00 is the very corner of the honeycomb. So my thought is, if that stays true, then I'll be able to actually build any jigs off of just fixing them to the honeycomb. So, you know, I can have like hold down feet in there and then cut out the parts or whatever, or I could make a strip that's on the one side, you know, similar to Clack's jig where it locks into the feet or something. But you could possibly do that. I was trying to keep them low profile though, so they wouldn't stick above the honeycomb or anything else, because there is times when you want to place a bigger object in there that overflows your working area because you want to engrave in the middle of it. So I was kind of going for keeping it out of the way rather than being too covering all aspects. So, but it's definitely something, you know, that could be done. You know, maybe reprint one of those side ones with a detachable post or something, you know.
Well, as long as the honeycomb stays where it is, if you're doing like, you know, materials that you can put in the corners, just like what I do with my MK2, you just grab you a couple of these. If the honeycomb stays put, then you just take these and index these off of the corner of the honeycomb, and then you're good.
Yep.
So, because that's what I do with my MK is I use these because the honeycomb cannot move in it. And so those are always going to be the same thickness and everything. So it's more or less like having a fixture or jig set up exactly for that item. Well, Gillette, maybe it'll show up soon. In the meantime, like I said, just learn, practice. You can actually go up and start building files in LightBurn, all that good stuff. It's one of those things that's pretty neat because you can build files without even having the machine and go ahead and have those things ready to go.
Cool.
Mr. ViewTubing says great videos on the Reno. He said he gave it a chance and ordered one. So
very cool.
there you go.
Like I said, I'm not done with this one. Want to play more with it, and if I get time, I do want to dig into it a little bit more and see if there are other ways I might improve upon it. Looking at tweaking the air assist some, taking a closer look at the controller, see what other options might be on it. So hopefully I'll have some more content out there for people who are picking them up. They do seem like a lot of bang for the buck for getting into a desktop CO2.
Yeah. Yeah. The word CO2 just typically means more expensive. A lot more expensive. Vince says it's a bit of a pass. It's a bit of a pass through. It's a pass into.
Yeah. It's unfortunate it doesn't go front to back because that would make it even more useful. But it's nice that they at least thought about that. Let's just slide something in from the front.
They hit at it. They didn't really knock it out of the park, but they did hit at it. So, Michael says, thanks for recommending the mini PC or mini computer for the garage laser setup. Perfect fit for me. Yeah, those things are handy because, like I said, small footprint, get you a wireless mouse and keyboard and use a TV as a monitor, and you're in business. So,
Mark's wondering where you're getting your basswood plywood from.
To be honest with you, most of what I've got has been sent to me with machines, or because like a lot of these companies around Christmas, they'll be like, Merry Christmas, here's an equipment, here's a material pack. Sometimes I don't even know who it's coming from because it's just like random packages. You can just, Steve, I know Steve gets the same thing because we'll send like random package of the day photos, but that basswood, I'm not sure where all of it came from, but the OMTech, and Steve's going to be jealous. The OMTech came, like, they sent me the package that comes with materials. I really don't need the cardboard, but they sent the cardboard. These are the 3mm basswood 12x20 sheets from OMTech. So I'm assuming since they include them with the laser, they were in the box with the laser, that they probably sell them in their materials shop somewhere. And then I got, like, I done used up one or two of these playing around, but I got like 3 or 4 sheets, 12x20 clear acrylic with it. So you actually, when I was looking at the where they sell it, you can pick a package that comes for like $150 extra. It comes with like a whole bunch of materials. But I've still got 1, 2, 4 more pieces of the clear. I burned one.
I got the short end of that stick. I didn't spend any material with mine. Matter of fact, I haven't gotten any fun material packages in a while.
Yeah. Well, you should be getting something from TruFlat, I think. That's what I was hearing. But I've actually got some 12x20 TruFlat that I got the other day. And matter of fact, when they said they were going to send it, I asked for the 12x20s because I knew this was going to be showing up, this and the Hurricane, which the Hurricane is being babysitted right now because I didn't have room for it in here. Klein came by today, and Steve, you'd be proud, he was driving a minivan. And so it's at his house right at the moment because there was not enough room at the end. And he's been dying to do some acrylic stuff, earrings and whatnot. So he's going to be continuing my testing on it for right now.
Cool. So as far as where I pick up some of that stuff, obviously it's nice when you can work with a local hardwood dealer, but here in the Midwest, down in Iowa, I think they're in the Ankeny area, so they're a couple hours away from me, but their shipping is reasonable, at least for me. I don't know if you get further away from the Midwest, how that might be, but there's a place called Balsa Wood Inc., and they have both light plywood as well as birch plywood, and they sell it in a variety of thicknesses, and they have a lot of 12x12, 6x12, 12x24 sizes. I think you can even get 4-foot lengths. So that's a place. Their webpage is a little bit dated, but I've ordered from them quite a few times. I'll drop a link out there for people if you want to take a look at it. This is kind of a holdover from my model aviation days. So the nice thing there is they do kind of bundle them together, ship them flat. I think they come wrapped in shrink wrap type stuff. So they tend to hold, but then also I bring them into my shop and I weigh all my plywood down, you know, so I'll lay them flat and then I'll try to set something heavy on them just so it'll acclimate to the shop, and also it won't less tendency to potato chip. Can't always prevent it, but
yeah, a lot of folks don't know this, but don't lay it directly on concrete because concrete will like wick moisture into your woods and stuff. So you want to put a barrier of some type between the concrete and the material if you have to put it on the floor. Well, Chris, it was a unique design. I don't know if you've ever seen one of them, and I was a little concerned. But when you look at the fact that the crate and this machine, the weight was 170 pounds with the shipper. Now, it was in a wooden crate, so, you know, account for maybe 10 or 15 pounds for the crate itself and the foam and all that. But that's still like a 150-pound machine, and it's smaller than the Atomstack Hurricane or the P2. But it's got like a piece of 1/4-inch aluminum plate all the way across the bottom. It's built like a tank. I will say that. Linear rails on all the axes. So it's pretty sturdy for what it is. I was kind of the same way. I was like, how is that tube moving with the gantry? But it's literally the tube's trapped in there, and it's got basically just a U that comes off the gantry and sends it back to the module. And then the module, like I said, it's got autofocus and everything. It does have the Ruida controller with the arrows and so forth. You can move it, set the Z and everything from the interface. But it also, you can actively control it with LightBurn. It's not like you can only send files to it. You can actually control it and move it amongst the work area with LightBurn. So it's different. I'm still learning it. I'm still playing around with different settings and all that. I did find that when I got it, they had the the interface controls. The jog speed was way too fast. Like it would just, you'd hit the button and it'd be like, shoo, and it would rock the whole machine. So I've slowed that down enough to where I can make fine adjustments, and it's working a lot better for me now.
Yeah, I imagine that there's some complexities with having the tube moving like that, but for alignment of those mirrors, if those are static,
it's technically better.
Yeah, it's better, assuming the tube and everything is secured properly. So it'll, I could see that being a benefit in one less thing to have to align. Yeah,
it's like I said, it's a little wild. I'll have the video. I'm going to be running it. I've been running it all weekend. I'm going to be running it again for a few more days this week. I'm going to try to get me like a preliminary video out by the middle of the week, maybe. And it has been set on the other side of my A70. It's taking up my little CO2 spot. I do still have my P2 just in case something happens to it. I still have my P2 over there on standby. And like I said, Klein's got the Atomstack for the moment. Hello, Fluffy. What are you doing, cat? Fluffy decided she was going to bathe in the live. So, but yeah, it's so far I like it. The only thing is I was a little upset that it's not going to be as chuck friendly as I had hoped. So, but for cutting acrylics and plywoods and engraving pieces of, like plaques and stuff like that, it's fine. Maybe next time they'll send me like that big one with the 48 by 30 something work area that has the drop bed and everything.
I could squeeze it in here, but I don't need that. And I don't even know. So that it was really nice when the guy dropped off the OMTech. you know, because these come freight, and the dispatch lady was very, I mean, she wasn't mean, but she wasn't friendly. And she was very careless. She's like, it's coming on a lift gate. They're going to drop it at the curb. They're not going to take it in your garage. They're not going to, you know, do all this stuff. It's just curbside delivery. I'm like, I understand that, but I've also dealt with a lot of these freight delivery drivers. And so the situation I have here is my shop and my garage is actually off the alleyway, not the main road. And what's to compound that, I'm at the dead end of the alleyway. You can't, it's not a drive-through. You have to come in and then you have to go back out. So I wouldn't even think of asking them, like, hey, can you drop it, you know, in my garage? So this guy, he brings the truck, and he calls me, says, hey, I'm on your street. Did you want me to bring this down the alleyway? I'm like, I don't think you want to, because you know, it's one way. He's like, oh, I could back it up there, and it's like a good solid block. It's a city block plus. So I'm like, I'm not doubting your skills, but I don't think my neighbors would be happy. So what I normally do is I have a flatbed trailer, a 5x8 flatbed trailer. Anytime I take these deliveries, I meet them out front. And a lot of times I'll be like, hey, do you think that the rails fold down? So I'm like, if I just back up to you, can you bring the lift gate down and pallet it on there? And he's like, oh yeah, we could do that. Or I'm pretty sure I can get my pallet up your ramp and whatnot. So he was really friendly, really helpful. And so then the flip side of that is I get it on the trailer. Now I got to bring it back here and unload it. This one wasn't so bad. When I got my table saw, that one was fun because it was really heavy and it was in pieces. I don't know, you have to put it together. If I got a machine that big, I honestly, I'm not sure how I would safely remove it from my trailer into my shop. So I have limits to the size equipment that I am willing to. I don't want to have to hire riggers to bring stuff into my shop. So,
well, push comes to shove, I do have a 16-foot by 10-foot or 8-foot door that I can't open, and I do have a tractor, 50 horsepower tractor with a front end loader and pallet forks.
Right.
And somebody was cracking on me the other day. You'd think if you built the shop, you'd have put a bigger door, because getting it through the door. I'm like, did you not notice this big garage door? but anyway, I don't like opening that, but yeah, like I said, I've already decided when I get ready to move into my new shop, once I get it built, I'm opening that 16-foot door and all these tables and stuff. I'm not unloading nothing. Everything I've built to accept pallet forks. I'm just pallet forking it and taking it to the new building with all the stuff on it. But I was going to show you, this is how we got that into the shop. Luckily, they included these cool orange straps that I kept, by the way, around the machine. So me and Bill literally just picked it up out of the box by the straps and toted it inside. So it went remarkably well, considering. I didn't get any video of it in the truck, but same situation. The driver called me that morning and was like, hey, I'm driver for SDs and I got your package, should be in your area around this time. And I was like, look, dude, could you do me a big favor? Because I was still at work. And I was like, could you call me when you're like 30 minutes out? I was like, where are you coming from? And he's like, well, I'm coming from Montgomery. And I'm like, well, when you get to Prattville, could you call me and just give me a heads up that you're like 30 minutes out? And so he did. And then he calls me and says, hey, I'm getting off the interstate. I'm about 20 minutes from you. I'm just going to pull up in front of your house and back in the driveway. And I'm like, hey, hang on. I got to go break up a cat fight. And so I guess they quit. I'm going to go check. Steve's going to get you, cats.
Hey, now.
Okay.
You're going to make them afraid of me for when I come next time.
Well, I looked over and there's fur flying everywhere. I don't know why these cats fight like they do. But anyway. But I thought I was like, you don't want to come up in my driveway, dude. I would not. I mean, I've drove trucks, and I would not want to try to turn around anywhere near my place. So I met him down the road at church where they had a big paved parking lot. And I just literally backed my tailgate up to his truck, and he opened his tailgate, and we just slid it into the truck. And then when we got here, me and Billy unboxed it from the crate outside and walked it in. So
Well, here,
worked out pretty good.
I'll show this really quick. So this is getting that thing off. And the other fun part about this is that it's like stapled together. So you're trying to get this crate apart. Well, there's screws at the bottom that if I would have noticed first, I could have just unscrewed those and slid the whole thing off. But yeah, this was.
You need a set of hand trucks at your place.
Well, I do have a hand truck, but it was just I was using it to kind of slide it back off towards the ramp. But when I got to the ramp, I'm like, it's just going to be easier to slide that thing off. So there you go.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Oh, so you got a trailer hitch on the van. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I was wondering what you was pulling it with. I thought maybe you had a, like a tractor or ATV or something you were using. I didn't know.
No, it's cool. You got a hitch there, so
cool.
Anyway, Lance is wondering about CO2 lasers.
Yes, and those are the Reno that you've got is probably, from what I've seen, that's probably the most functional yet cheap machine that I've seen so far, other than the M40s, which don't do it. Just save your money for a little longer and get something else, because the M40s, I bought one or got one, and by the time I spent the money, like Steve said, by the time I spent the money upgrading it to get it to where I could feel comfortable doing stuff with it, we were at the same price point as what the Reno is that Steve has now. So, yeah. I think the Atomstack, I love that Atomstack, but I didn't really care for the conveyor thing. I'm just going to be honest with you. You know how I feel about those things. It worked, but I didn't like the fact that, it got all like smoky in here when it was using it and all that. I just think those are a little gimmicky, but I do like the Atomstack. I like the P2. The OMTech's showing out pretty good. Steve's got the Monport, but now the Monport is by far going to be the most economical. What's the getting into it price on that Monport now?
So if you want the one that I've got, the Pro that works with LightBurn, it's right now it's $14.99, so $1,500. And then now if they have a regular version that the Reno 45, it uses I forget what's the software. It uses a basic software, not LightBurn compatible. No, it's not RD Works. It's give me a second here. I should know this, but it's $500 less. So this is it's got a Whisper, laser DRW Whisper, or it's got like a Corel Draw plugin. Apparently Mir K40T is kind of like a Gerbil emulator, maybe be able to work some things with LightBurn with that. Someone had asked me about that. I started looking into it, but so that one's $1,000, but it's also just a touch slower. But then, like I mentioned, they also offer now the 65, which is a 65 watt, and it jumps up in size from 16 by 12 to 24 by 16. So you get a little more working area, and those are $1,500 or $2,000. So the 65 watt version, which is a little bit longer than this one, and 65 watt versus 45 watt, $2,000 right now is pretty good deal compared to the others. Now you do still have to get your software for it, but and these I'm running the 3000 chiller. It's more of a radiator, but it doesn't come with like a built-in water reservoir. So you can either they give you a water pump, and you can just stick it in a bucket, which will work okay for short runs, but after a while that'll heat up. Or I think that's about $150. So if you're using it in a climate controlled area that's not really hot, it'll work to cool your water down for the tube. So I would factor $150 on top of either of those prices and go ahead and grab at least the 3,000, if not the 5,000.
Yeah. Mike Smith's asking, what's your guys' thoughts on them various marking sprays? Ceramark, Brilliance, OMTech, LBT. I've even seen xTool has one. There's a large price spread. I use Ceramark, but to be honest with you guys, I think chemically speaking, I think they're all basically the same thing, which is going to be mostly titanium oxide, I think is what it is, which is the white pigment that's in Rust-Oleum 2X is the same stuff that's in there. So you can get different results. Like I said, white spray paint is one of those things. And I ordered me a little. I'm going to do some more testing with my tempera paint, since Steve did that really good video on mixing up and using a airbrush. I'm going to attempt to replicate that myself and see if I have as good of results, which I suspect I won't, but I'm going to try because I do think that the white look from tempera paint would be cool with a diode, but I have yet to find a easy way to apply tempera paint. But then after watching Steve's video, he made it look so easy. I went and bought a little cheap air gun, and I'm going to try it.
Yeah, I mean, especially with tempera paint, that's easy to clean up. If you're doing more than a couple, I wouldn't want to just have to set it up for just spraying one, but it is pretty slick. And if you use a hair dryer or a heat gun or something just to kind of flash dry the stuff, it moves pretty quick. Yeah. So I and maybe this is something I can do this week because I was trying to plan out what all I need to do. I got to think now. I've got Ceramark. I've got Brilliance marking spray. I think I bought a can of OMTech and xTool. So I have those 4. And now I got a CO2 set up. I've got diodes set up. And of course I can even test on fiber. So I just need to plan out my, what all am I going to test and how many blanks do I need to set up? But I do want to run a bit of a test to try to compare, are they the same? Are there any differences? As far as and then how do they interact with different machines? Because some people have reported they've had better luck with certain ones over others, especially when talking about with diodes.
Yeah, like I said, I started out using Ceramark. I like it. I know what to expect. I know how to use it, and I just keep using it. Yes, it's expensive, but if you use it appropriately, it actually goes a lot further than what you would think. It takes a lot longer to use that can of spray up than what you would believe it would.
Yeah, it doesn't take a whole lot per can or per object to cover it. So,
well, hello, SJ Braggs. I actually got to meet those folks in person here in Clinton a while back.
Wow.
Yep.
Now they're all the way over in New Mexico.
Well, they're actually from New Mexico. They were passing through.
Oh, they're passing through. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, they went and got a old hot hamburger up at the the Jack's Diner where me and you went, if you remember. So, yeah.
Cool.
I want a picture. Oh.
Janie says, love the elf video myself. Glad people are enjoying that. I think it was you had mentioned Brandy had said something about.
Yeah, Brandy was saying we needed to do one, and then you did it, and she's like, "That's awesome." Oh, she loved it.
So yeah, and then I had to get some AI voiceover for the very first part of the intro as well, and got it mixed together. So hopefully everybody. I mean, that was all part of promoting and announcing, making sure people are aware of next Sunday. We're going to be doing a big Christmas giveaway. It's the Sunday before Christmas, and we've partnered with a number of places to provide some prizes. I think most of them are able to ship worldwide. Maybe there might be a couple that we have to put an asterisk on that, I
meant to ask Cody about that.
But we're trying to make sure they're available to everyone. We know we've got listeners outside the U.S. And even right now, shipping to Canada with the strike stuff going on, that's a little difficult. But yeah, we're going to be giving away a bunch of prizes next week. We're excited for that. So been dropping a couple of videos just to remind people of the times and what's coming up. So that'll be fun. So hopefully everybody that's here tonight, you can catch us next week at the same time. It's going to take us a little while. We're going to have to.
We'll have to set aside a good bit of time to do the giveaways for sure. And we've got and the way we've got it worked out too, we've got some CNC stuff, and then we got some laser stuff. And so the only safe way that I can come up with to do it is we're going to have different keyword for each thing. That way, if it's something that you don't have a need for, because if you don't have a CNC, you're really not going to be wanting to try to join necessarily and get some Genie bits unless you plan on getting the CNC maybe. So that's going to be what we're going to have to like stage it. Stage it out so that, like this keyword is going to be this keyword is going to be that or whatever. And we'll have to figure out whether we want to do the more expensive stuff first or last. And I've had a couple of other companies that I've asked, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, they got a little greedy with what they wanted me to do in exchange. And so I've kind of passed them off for now. But totally, right now, we've got a total of $3,755 worth of stuff that's going to be free for the taking. And hopefully it'll be a fun time. And I hope the folks that win it, because little do y'all know, or some of you may, we have restrictions on what we can and can't do for giveaways. Somebody was saying the other day, oh, I really wish you just not have it for these people or not have it for those people. But the commerce folks and the FCC and all these other 3-letter companies or government entities frown upon certain things. And so we have to operate inside the area that we're allowed to operate. And so we can't really exclude people.
Yep. That and the companies like to see when you have a big big turnout. They want to they're looking at this as advertising as well. So we're but like we've mentioned before, we're going to continue to do these, sprinkle them throughout the year, and have some additional ones. So you never know when we'll pop up a giveaway on any one of these lives.
Paul, I am very job dependent on stain, because sometimes I like stuff darker, and sometimes I like it lighter, and sometimes I mix it up and do both. So what about you, Steve? And I'm trying to find, I seen somebody ask about there it is.
I'll be honest, I'm not a big stain person. I use it when I need to, but a lot of the times I'm working with hardwoods, and so I'll just use maybe an oil-based finish that's going to bring out more of the natural colors of the wood than staining it for something. But I've played around with some darker. If I'm trying to make plywood look a little bit darker, I'll get like a real darker walnut flavor. But a lot of times with stains, it's more of I'm just looking at what I have over there. I have a lot of like grays for getting that kind of weathered or almost like a whitewashed look to it. So,
yeah. Well, you can see that wall behind me over there. I have a variety of stains that I use, and it just depends on the project. It depends on what it is, the type of wood, what I'm doing with it. So, not something that I use on every job. Sometimes, like Steve said, sometimes I just seal. But there are times that I just kind of want to contrast or, match something that somebody already had. And a lot of times people just say, I want it stained dark, or I want it stained light, or I want it stained this color, that color. So it just depends. Newsfan77, would you go with a large CNC with lead screw rollers and open loop steppers, or small machine with linear rails, ball screws, closed loop? I mean, the only two things, the only thing that I'd be more concerned about would be, one, I like screws rather than belts, but I don't see.
I would say the thing that I would, just from my experience, now there's as a hobbyist, an occasional user, there's nothing wrong with a belt-driven roller-based machine. You're going to get a lot of work out of it, even as a small business. When you start pushing and producing a lot of stuff, and you don't have, you're taking material out, you're putting the next one in, locking it down, hit and go, trying to minimize that time. You don't want to have to take the time to worry about dust that may have accumulated on your rollers, and that starts affecting your wheels, which then starts affecting the slop of the machine. So that's one of the things that I try to stay away from at this point is rollers. Having some sort of linear rails, linear rods, things like that tend to work a lot better for that. Closed loop versus open loop, there again, as a hobbyist, I'm not going to worry about it as much. It's nice to have closed loop that's getting that feedback. The controller can either try to correct or pause the job when it recognizes an issue. But it's you're paying for that. So what I would look for is probably the biggest machine I can get. I feel that is going to work in my workshop is going to be probably the first thing I look at. So I'm going to go for size over some of the other things.
Yeah, because if you're looking at it from a business standpoint, the chances of you messing up projects, if you properly maintain the machine and you use the correct, feeds and speeds, you'd be better off with a bigger work area than all the bells and whistles, because the bigger work area is going to enable you to do bigger projects. Bigger projects pay a little bit better money. Plus, it gives you more versatility on what kind of jobs you can take on. So from a business standpoint, you want to maximize the area that you can engrave. Now, if you're trying to turn out, like you said, if you're trying to mass produce stuff, then that's when you start needing more robust or whatever. But like my Shapeoko is, it's got linear rails, ball screws, but it's open loop steppers to the best of my knowledge. Yes, pretty sure it is. But like this little guy right here, the difference is, like, I'm doing a video on this one today. This little CNC right here is a 40/40, and right now there's a $50 off coupon, and it's like $550. So for $500, you can get something like this, the Fox Alien. Genmitsu actually has the small machines that have lead screws. They're a lot more robust than everything, but they're a little more expensive. The 40/40 Max, Pro Max that me and Steve just tried out is about $1,000, whereas these machines like this one are $5,000 to $7,000. So you're going to pay a little more, like Steve said, but you do get a little bit more rigidness. But so far, I'm actually pleasantly surprised with this one on how well it does on materials. Like you can see right there, it's got the little covers to keep the belts and stuff from getting so much dust on them. So it's doing a really good job. I was shocked. I was a little worried that it having belts as a CNC wasn't going to play well, but so far it's doing a good job.
Cool.
I'm gonna walk out to the side for a second.
But yeah, it's hard to say what anyone needs for their first machine. It's nice if you can get one that maybe has some expandability. So, like we were mentioning, the 40/40 Pro Max, it's a fairly rigid machine. It's got a smaller footprint, allows you to kind of learn it, but you can then extend it to double its length and then kind of grow from there. I would either kind of go on one spec. I caution going too cheap, because you can also purchase a machine that's just a bunch of headaches and you don't learn anything. But sometimes you want to kind of get in with a modest machine, kind of figure some things out, and then you'll start knowing, hey, how many times am I missing having like a larger working area? Because Clack's got a 4x4 bed. I've got about a 3x4 bed. Neither of us use that full bed 100% of the time, or even 50% of the time. Yeah. A lot of your projects are going to be probably, like sign or trays or whatnot that are going to fit into, say, a 16-inch-ish area. But when you have that idea or have that request and you have the space, it is nice.
Yeah, because and that's the reason I went with the 4 foot by 4 foot. It wasn't that like every job I had But it was that way when somebody did want something that was 4 foot by 4 foot, I could. And so far, I think I've only had to have the bed on three jobs. And one of them wasn't even mine. It was one somebody else got, but they didn't have a work area big enough. And they're like, hey, can I bring this over there and you cut it on your machine? And so I was like, yeah, bring it on. Now, with that said, I am fixing to start designing storage boxes for the back of police SUVs and cutting them from plywood and making them for the local police department. And when I do that, I will need the 4 foot by 4 foot because the bottom plate that's going to go on the bottom of the build is going to use up a lot of that bed space. So I'm working on that design, getting everything figured out, but it's basically just going to be like an organizational type little caddy for police Tahoes, the little Explorers or whatever. But I'm making one box that'll fit all of them, and then I'm just going to make them and sell them. This will be my retirement gig.
Do we need to start bumping this live a couple hours earlier so you're not?
I don't know why. I sit still too much. Let me run around a little bit. I sit still. I just get sleepy. I'm like a shark, guys. I don't quit moving. This is the longest I sit still all day. Seriously.
Michael's asking, looking at purchasing the Rolly XL after owning an xTool D120 watt, worthy upgrade, like the larger size and slightly more powerful diode. What do you think?
I mean, I like that one. I haven't got the extra wide. That's a 30 watt Rolly. I mean, it's the same machine. It just doesn't have quite as big a bed.
Right. Yeah. We both have the standard MK2. It's a nice machine. You don't have to do anything to it. It's got everything you really need for it. The only thing would be is if you've been using your xTool on LightBurn, you're good to go. If you've been using an XCS, you are going to have to pick up LightBurn and you're going to have to learn LightBurn to run the LaserMatic. But it is a quality machine that is, you don't have to build an enclosure. You don't have to add cameras. It's got a decent fan for extraction to start with. You can just, hook that up to your whatever your smoke extraction is. So I think neither one of us would tell you it's a bad idea. There's other options out there, but that's a nice all-in-one, wider working area and a little more powerful laser.
Yeah. Megan's asking Glowforge or xTool, which one would you recommend? I do not recommend Glowforge. I'm just going to throw it out there. I know they were a pioneer, blah, 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 but I've got some friends locally that have a Glowforge, and like the software, you have to have an internet connection. All your stuff goes through their servers. It's just, and they're not very user friendly. They have a warranty that you can send it back to the company and the company fixes it or whatever. But me personally, I would go with the xTool. If that's your two choices, and I would go with xTool. Like I said, I've got a friend of mine right now. She's messaged me like 3 times wanting to know if I want to buy this Glowforge, and I can't justify paying that much money for a machine that won't do what my P2 does. So it's just they're a little overpriced. And Glowforge, if you're watching, I'm sorry, but it's true. they're just they're overpriced. They got in a market of crafty stay-at-home moms, and they had the best marketing campaign probably anybody has ever had. And they made a lot of money, but it's to me, it's xTools are expensive. Glowforges are just stupid expensive.
Well, yeah. And Glowforge also kind of locks you into their software unless they've changed things. xTool, I think, and Glowforge really got into it to try to make when they brought those out, lasers were kind of like, my old eBay CO2. It is it was industrial. You kind of had to. It wasn't something that the average person was go, oh, I'm gonna put this in my craft room. So Glowforge cracked that market, but I think xTool has really taken that over in the fact that yes, they are still expensive compared to the more industrial kind of stripped down lasers and such. And Glowforge, I know they came out with a diode last year I just feel like anybody I've talked to, there's a lot of people who have done well with them, but now when it's coming time to replace them, they're like, there are other options they're looking at. So between the two, I would agree. I would go with xTool.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think they're what, a 30, 35 watt, I think. They're not a 55. They're less wattage. I'd have to look it up. Hang on, let me look it up.
I think they maybe had a couple different versions, but I want to say it was at least a 40. Similar to the K40, I think.
Oh, that's the Spark. It's a 6 watt. Let's see. Yeah, I can't. 22. Wait. Oh, that's the Spark. I can't. Everything I'm seeing is this darn Spark thing. But yeah, the comparison of the two, I would stick with the xTool personally. 45. The Glowforge Pro 3D is a 45 watt, according to their website. Now, I don't know if that's current, but anyway. Yeah, Jim, I think Steve and I both have had conversations with Monport. I don't know if it's going to go any further than that, but I know I've had conversations with them. That's all I've had with them, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. It would be fun to take a look at one of those, because yeah, it does sound like they're going after the, that all-in-one desktop unit. It sounded like they are even going after some of the extra features, like with the curved surfaces and things like that. That I think didn't Atomstack try to do that as well?
Yes, somewhat. They like Atomstack had the red dot pointer built into the laser beam, which was awesome. And I was a little hurt when I realized that my OMTech doesn't have that, because it makes framing a little more complex. The camera, I do like the camera setup in the OMTech better. It doesn't encompass the whole work area. That was a little bit of a Debbie Downer, but all in all, I'm making it work.
Cool. Mark, yeah, I've used them as well. As far as I've used them more for their specialty woods, their hardwoods, than I have their plywoods. They do sell nice plywood bundles as well. I just haven't tested their plywood versus their hardwood, so I don't want to say it's great or bad.
Terry says first time catching the live. Hey.
Very cool.
Thank you. I'm trying to go through these comments, guys. If you had a question and we missed it, by all means, drop it in there again. We're at 1 hour and 9 minutes, so we're about halfway through the show, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but it gets a little hectic trying to scroll the comments and actually have conversation and answer other questions. So, let's see.
I don't know that I've seen any issues here. Richard's asking with LightBurn, finally did the updates. The camera view does not show up the grid anymore. Do I need to align the camera again?
Does it show up the grid? By grid, I'm curious. I'm gonna need a little more information. Because I'm not sure what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and Jim mentioned on the Okuch hardwoods, I always mess up their name, that they normally have a best price on Baltic birch, and if shipping works for you, do get glue spots now and then. It's hard to avoid glue spots on any plywood, including Baltic birch, especially in the thinner material. They do have various grades, and so I mean, all plywood has various grades, and that's where you see like, A, B, C, or BB/B, things like that, and that has to do with the quality of the wood and the quality of the veneers. So you can actually pay more and get higher quality veneers and or the full wood, but you're gonna pay for it. And when you get into that thinner, 1/8 and 1/4 inch, you're typically going to have one quality face and then one not as good face. But Baltic birch is usually like a BBB or a BB/BB, where it will sometimes have those little football shaped plugs in them.
Yep. Norbert, if you're talking about in LightBurn, yes, you can adjust the offset. In XCS, no, it's pretty much, it is what it is in XCS. But I have a hard time believing that it's off in XCS unless something has physically gotten moved, because they know what the offset is. So if it's in LightBurn, there is a chance that yours may have gotten changed a little bit. But and if you loaded it with just a stock, like if you didn't use their, because when you add the D1 to LightBurn, you got to use their profile, and you can go to their website and download that. If you don't, then it's not going to put the offset in there, and that may be the problem, because I think it's like 16 millimeters down, and it's like 16 down and to the left, I think. So if you didn't use their profile, it probably didn't account for the offset. So you had to go in and add it.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've looked at that.
Yeah, I hadn't set one of those up in a minute.
I'm gonna try to scroll down here a little bit. Michael's asking, what do y'all do with the bamboo filament poop that gets kicked out when you fire up the P1S? Well, I have it collect in a little bin, and then randomly my cats decide to take pieces out and play with them.
So it ends up in the garbage around here.
I have heard of a couple places that are trying to make filament recyclers, and it's still not necessarily ready for the masses or available to the masses. That would be kind of nice with, I mean, a lot of times, sometimes you print something out and you're like, oh, that was the wrong size. I did it just today, making the brackets for this. But yeah, a lot of that stuff I just I end up tossing and recycling or something. So
Vern, I used my MK2 set to 10 watts because this is the 1030, and you can use it. Engraving it is not that, it's not bad at all. Cutting it, you will have to slow it down, maybe make a couple of passes, because it's like a really hard, really dense MDF. But yes, you can do it with a 10 watt machine. It's just going to require different settings. That's what I was going after him with Steve on a stick. They were over here fighting. Trying to get to the, oh my goodness, there's more comments. What the heck? Oh Lord, I'm way behind. I'm gonna start at the most recent and go up.
Well, here's one that's their laser art ladies are wondering if we're going to be doing any videos with the UV lasers in the near future. There seems to be very limited info on them.
Yes, I hope. According to my tracking notification, let me look. Let's see. I'm pretty sure. No, that's not it. Well, USPS. Hang on, give me just a second. I got to go to USPS. Somebody's link that they put in this email is not working.
I always love that. Or when they use some other third-party tracking instead of just straight number. Well, while Dave's looking that up, you're going to have to root for him getting it right now, because I don't have any leads on any right now. They're not something that I'm looking to purchase at this time, so it would have to be a company wanting to work with me for that. So we'll have to wait and see if David gets one and what comes of it.
It says it's USPS is what it says. Let me make sure. USPS tracking. Yes. Let me see. Maybe they messed that up. I don't know. The tracking number that I got sent is not functioning, so I'm not sure if they're just yanking my chain or they sent me the wrong stuff or what. Looks like it. Okay, so it's not a USPS tracking number. It is a UPS tracking number. And apparently it is on the boat as of 12/15 of 2024 at 3:34 a.m. It has left Shenzhen, China, and is inbound. So it's on the boat. That's all I got. I don't know.
We'll have to see. But yeah, hopefully Clack will have some information.
It weighs 33 pounds, so that's sounds about right. But yeah, I'm supposed to be getting the Com Marker Omni 1, I think that's what it's called. It's a 5-watt UV. Steve makes everything. A couple other guys have done videos with it. It seems pretty interesting. I wasn't going to take it because I was like, oh, I just got the Monport MOPA. But then when they said it was a UV, I was like, wait a minute, that's new. So I can't turn it down. And me and Steve, like I said, we've been throttling back some of the review stuff, but I can't turn down a UV because, like I said, you guys are asking for information, and that's the only way I'm ever going to be able to give you any information is to try it out. So we're going to be sitting it right next to the Monport. Hopefully, if it fits, I'm going to slide some stuff this way. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Chuck's asking, in your opinion, xTool F1 or Com Marker portability and use?
Those aren't exactly the same.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're looking at the 20-watt fiber, like the the B4 or the B6 that I've looked at, they're going to be a little bit lighter, but you also have to factor if you're taking a portable. Now the Com Markers, you're going to have to get their enclosure or something to provide protection, and that's going to change that portability quotient to some degree. Com Marker, you're going to spend less upfront on it to work to get it going. But I would say for someone brand new to it, the xTool F1 tied with their XCS software makes it a little bit easier to have successes right away. You're going to have to do a little more testing with the Com Marker. You're going to have to figure out, the settings in LightBurn and how to adjust your photos a little bit more. Whereas that's one of the things that xTool does nicely is they try to make it a bit of an easy button for you. So I think portability, the base unit is probably easier to move around on the Com Marker, but once you start adding that enclosure, it's going to be kind of a tie. So for me, it's going to come down to the cost. Now the F1 does give you that blue diode laser option as well. So, if you're looking at being able to engrave multiple things, different types of things on the go, it does give you that, but you're also paying for it. You could buy the Com Marker and a small other diode for similar prices. So both are nice machines. But if it's your first fiber getting into it with the Com Marker or any other Galvo like that, you're probably going to be watching a lot of videos trying to figure out what all the settings and the changes and the things mean.
Yeah, Galvos have a lot of settings that nobody really ever discusses. And I had never fooled with it a whole lot until I got the Monport and I went to test it. And there's a lot of timing and stuff that goes into those machines. So you can get in there and really mess one up if you're not careful. But the Com Markers that I had seemed to be set pretty close. But I was told to always check them, so that's what I've been doing. So Michael's asking, what CAD program are y'all using to design your 3D prints? I use mostly Fusion 360 because that's all I've learned how to use, and I'm very limited in Fusion because Fusion is like a plethora of tools all in one program. And I have just literally scratched the surface of what it's capable of in what I do. but that's how I design like a lot of my little projects that I make and baskets for machines and stuff like that. And Steve uses a similar program, but I'll let him tell you about what he uses.
So historically with 3D modeling, I've done a lot with SketchUp, going back to the days when Google actually owned it. And old habits die hard. So I continue to use that for a lot of things. Now it does have some limitations because it's not true solid 3D modeling. You can export STLs, but it's more like a series of faces and such. So some programs will complain and you got to run it through like an STL fixer to fix some of those issues. But what I've been doing, I've got, well, let's see, counting the one today, I've got about 3 or so videos on my channel talking about using Tinkercad for creating for 3D printers. And this is put out by Autodesk, the makers of AutoCAD and Fusion. It's web-based, it's free, and it's kind of like the Lego blocks of getting started in it. Now you can do a lot of pretty fancy things with them as you learn different tips and tricks with it. But it's a nice way to kind of ease into it with 3D design. So that's why I've been kind of showing that is you don't have to buy another piece of software. It's not terribly difficult. Trying to help people get over that fear of I don't want to have to learn a whole nother thing. So as a matter of fact, I have another video probably be able to get out in the next couple of days on yet another thing for making a tapered tube for like exhaust vent adapters, because I had to make one for the Reno, and so I'll probably drop that in a couple of days as well. So I've been trying to get a series of them out there to help people with that.
Yeah, just to give you an idea, this is that's the little box that I designed. It's like 2 parts. Makes a whole box, but it drops down into an opening right here and sits on the lip. But I designed this one. Now, pay no attention to this. This started as a DXF file that I exported from LightBurn. That's how it began life. And in LightBurn, I created, and let me see if I don't think I kept it. Hang on. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I did keep it. So it began life as a DXF right there. That is how it started its journey. And if you'll notice right here, Steve can attest to this. That is my calibration cube. Basically, that is a 20 by 20 square. So when I bring this DXF file over into Fusion, I click on one of these lines and I just make sure that both of these lines are 20 by 20. And as long as they are, I know that my measurements made the trip with this DXF. And then I just extrude this once I get it into Fusion, and it becomes that. So you can see, like, let me get my sketch. Let me turn the bodies off. So, well, why is it not wanting to? There you go. So there's the file. That's that DXF that I brought in. And so when I get in here, if I click on that little line right there, you can see down here that that's 20 millimeters. All right. If I click on that one, it's 20 millimeters. So that lets me know when I bring this DXF file in that all I've got to do is start extruding. And I've got all the lines designed so that, like, this is, each part is already laid out. So I just literally draw the DXF in LightBurn, bring it over here, extrude everything, put my finishing touches on it. And the next thing you know, I have this guy. So that's that's how I've learned to do this stuff. And that's how I continue to do it. It's a little gimmicky. I get it, but it works. And it works really well. So there you go. Now you see how you can use LightBurn to help you design 3D objects. But that's the process I use. I used to do it as SVGs, but if you design a SVG, those are fine for like logos or images or something. But if you're trying to actually design a physical object, you need to export it from LightBurn as a DXF. But I recommend putting you some kind of known scalable object in the drawing, like that little 20 by 20 square. That way, if it's off, you can scale it up. Like Steve, I think you went over that the other day in some of your videos that you were doing when you were building them in Tinkercad too. As far as I think you were doing it coming from Tinkercad into the was it into the slicer maybe?
Yeah, probably. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah. Oh, and after me and Steve get back from Vegas in January, I'm actually going to be on the AutoCAD. They have basically they're doing a series on different people that use Fusion 360, and they reached out to me. And so I'll be on their little series that they're doing with makers, talking about how I utilize their product. So there you go.
Yeah. Look at you.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't even know they knew who I was. But they do, apparently.
Well, speaking of our trip to Vegas, we're going there for CES, and we are going to be spending some time with xTool.
Yep.
We don't have any insight currently on what they're working on. Chances are, if we did, we would have signed an NDA that they wouldn't allow us to say anything about it either.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't be able to talk about it anyway.
This might be their opportunity to make some new announcements. They may allude to some stuff. I don't know that they're actually going to be displaying anything new there, but a lot of companies use that to kind of kick off and launch new products. So hopefully if there is something coming out, they'll have some information there. And, that's coming up in barely not even 4
January.
So it's like the 7th and 8th. I think the days will be there. So we'll see. We'll see what they have, and maybe we'll have some news to share after that. But I agree. 24 by 24 is a nice size. For me, I've told a lot of them, and the X40 or the A40, whichever one, the wider Atomstack one is a really nice size. And I keep telling them, like, just make it 36 by 18, maybe 20.
Yeah.
And keep going there. And in that format would be nice. They take that feedback, whether they work with it or not. That's kind of up to them and their engineers and their product development team. But it would be cool. Yeah.
Like I said, I haven't heard anything out of them. But just like with the X40, I love this machine. I think this machine is kind of the sweet spot. And I wish other, like these enclosed machines that they're coming out with, like the CO2s, I wish some of them would start stretching out a little bit more. I know they're trying to stay desktop, but, it would be nice.
Jack says they're was getting ready to pull the trigger on a Hurricane, but they're on back order. The Monport Reno Pro 65 caught my eyes, a learning machine before I dropped $12K on a Thunder. Thoughts on the Monport?
Ooh.
Well, yeah. If you haven't worked a machine, a CO2 machine, I would say the comparison from the Monport Reno to the Thunder is probably going to be closer than the Hurricane to the Thunder, because they're more kind of native core operations. The Hurricane's going to have a few extra features. That's nice, but aren't as
the Hurricane would be more comparative to, like, if you've been running diodes, and it would be an easy transition because the software works the same.
So now I've only had this one a couple weeks. I've been running with it and putting some information out on it. I've been pleasantly surprised with the performance for the budget. As you saw, maybe today, I added the little honeycomb clips as kind of I want to make it a little more how I want to use it. It isn't a requirement to do this. You can still function with the machine without it. But so there are probably going to be some things that want to be upgraded. Another thing I'm hoping to look at is I want to tear into it to see how the air pump works, because it basically comes on when you turn it on, and it's always running through the air assist cone, which is fine. But as Clack and I have said in the past, that's another your air, the amount of air, your air speed, your air pressure, the point of focus with your air can make a big difference. And being able to make some adjustments on that. So I don't know if the 65 is the same way. I'm guessing it is. It's working okay, but I think it's something that can be better with a little aftermarket, and adding my own shop air could help just dial up the capabilities of the machine as well. All that being said, I mean, it's a nice kind of entry level, get your feet wet without spending too much money on it. But I can't speak to longevity. I haven't had to really reach out to Monport for support. So I can't speak to how good they are on that. But for the money, I think so far I'm really happy with this, and why I've been, able to recommend it to people as an option.
Yeah. Well, I do have a friend that has this one. He lives over here near me. And he has this particular machine. He's had it for about a year, maybe a little over a year now. And he's had a little bit of trouble with, I think he had a power wire, something happened with the power wire, and had to replace a few things. But if you're capable of working on them, he has had really good luck with his, but this is probably the smallest of the bigger ones. They have larger ones all the way up to the 40 by 24, but he has this machine and had really good luck with it. It's got the autofocus bed and everything. So he at first was frustrated with their tech support, because he called me because there again, that little delay, because it's in China, there was a delay. So the first 2 or 3 days he was getting a little upset, because he even called me. He's like, "Hey, do you want to buy a machine?" I'm fixing to let it go. And I'm like, "What's wrong with it?" He's like, "I don't know." He said they're supposed to be getting back with me, but they wound up getting back with him. And I noticed today on his Facebook page that he is back selling stuff, doing his last minute orders for Christmas and stuff. So, and is that the quality of the Thunder machine? No, but it ain't a $12,000 price tag either. So, you got to figure out what you want.
And a lot of these, especially with the Ruida controllers and such, and then they're very similar. And that's one of the reasons I was okay getting this OMTech machine. Is it does give me a smaller footprint machine, but when people have questions and want to ask me questions about it, I have this machine to reference as well, and I can either use it to show wiring or parts or similarities. So, but it doesn't take up the space of the old one that I've sent on to my friend. So yeah, even if, whether it's Monport, OMTech, Thunder, a lot of these they're similar but different. And so, we want to be as much of a resource as we can to help people like that. I can't say I'm going to be 24/7 tech support and take a video call and get you up and running, but if we can at least have something to reference to help give you some ideas, we want to have that availability. So,
yeah. Honeycombs. That's what honeycombs are made for. I just lay mine on the honeycomb. Now, if your honeycomb's nasty, you're going to get some standing on the backside. You probably need to clean that. But the one thing that you do need to make sure of is between your honeycomb and whatever's under it, there needs to be a gap, a little bit of an air gap. You don't want it to be completely sealed up inside those little combs. So if there's not a gap between your honeycomb and the piece of metal backer or whatever that's underneath it, get you some magnets or something to put under the bottom side of that honeycomb to space it up, because you do want to have airflow through there, because if you don't have airflow through there, you'll start getting micro explosions, and it'll sound like popcorn or firecrackers going off in your enclosure. And it can be severe enough to actually move your material. And what that is that wood gas exploding.
Cool.
And whatever glues and all that kind of stuff in there. Lori, there's a lot of machines running around here that look like they were the same machines with a different paint job. So it wouldn't surprise me. It really would not surprise me. There's a lot of them like that.
Yep. Yes, sir.
I'm looking. Yeah, up north, Fusion is it is not cheap. That is for sure. It's one of those things, like I said, like Steve said, with Tinkercad, if you're not making a lot of stuff to justify the expense, you might want to look at something like Tinkercad or I think Claire said Blender. You may be able to do it there. So, you just like with everything, like software does cost money. And sometimes the software can be one of the most expensive parts.
Yeah, unfortunately, it does. It can add up depending on what. So you kind of pick your areas where you're going to invest, and sometimes you look for the free versions and elsewhere that you can maybe export.
Yeah. James said, thank you. Save some time on 3D design. Like I said, James, I am not a traditional, I'm not somebody that learned how to work Autodesk or Fusion. I learned just enough to, be able to do what I need to do. And I'm more comfortable laying out like a drawing in LightBurn than I am anything. And so instead of drawing it in Fusion, I'll draw it in LightBurn and then send that DXF over. And it's so much faster. And the cool thing too is if it's a combination like 3D printed / laser cut project, the lines are exactly the same. So you can literally cut parts with the laser or make them with the 3D printer and it'll be the same.
Pat's asking what we think of the Ender 3V 3D printer for a beginner.
Mine was cool, but if I had it to do over again, I might go a different route, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think the last Ender I had was a Ender 3. I don't even know if it was a V2. So it was a couple years ago, and I started playing around with 3D printers early on, back when they were kind of laser cut kits and put together with weird linear rails or rods and bearings, and it was usually MDF cutouts and zip tied together. And so the evolution through printers, they all seemed better than the last one. But as a beginner, looking back at some of those printers, I wouldn't wish that on some people. There's just so much tinkering that you need to play around with. So there's kind of a certain level you want to get to for the first quick wins. Because if you fail right out of the belt and you can't get that first layer down, it's just shooting out spaghetti on you, you're going to get frustrated really quickly. So I'm not up on what all the V3, the Ender 3 V3 has, but at that $300 price point, I don't want to sound like a Bamboo Labs fanboy, but getting an A1 currently in that price point, it makes it so much easier to get started. Everything it does to auto bed level and the various things it has with its hot ends and such to detect. Good Lord, you were making noise over there.
I was getting my trash bucket. This is supports, and look how clean. Like those are supports that come off of that bowl that I did, that tray, and it actually looks like a project. Like they're cool. It's hard to beat them.
So I would seriously look at them right now. I mean, I hear they're starting to have some shipping issues because of the volume of orders they've had, but they've been quick to respond, and take care of customers. So I feel like for someone just getting started and not wanting to be frustrated, I'd have a hard time recommending not going that route. There are other ones. I mean, their Anchor Make has a decent one. And I think the Creality K1 is similar to some of the features in that, but you start getting a little more expensive. Bamboo's really attacked that kind of entry level with the A1 Mini and the A1 for a few $100s, kind of have some quick wins.
Yeah, somebody was asking me about one the other day, and I told them right now, if you want to just bite off in it and see what you think about it, I don't see how you could go wrong with that A1 Mini without the AMS, just the A1 Mini by itself. I mean, within a week or two, you would be like, okay, yeah. Now you're going to want to upgrade, but the cool thing about it is the A1 Mini, as long as it's a smaller project, you can still continue to use it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think right now, I think they're listed on the site at $199, but I think if you look at some of their ads, there's some code you can use to get them at like $179. So,
yeah. Yeah, my Ender that I had upgraded everything. I had put the Sonic pad on it. I had done a lot to it, but it was just like, it seemed like I was always, something would come up and I'd have an issue with something. And so then I started watching videos about the bamboos, and I was like, man, it can't be that easy. But then I got one, and I'm like, okay, it is. The only problem I've had, and it's just because I got to get me a filament dryer, is if that AMS holds so much filament, I can't use it up fast enough. So I need to get me a dryer so that I can periodically just take it off and put it in the dryer, and then when I get ready to use it, load it back up. That's the only, I had the other day when I started printing all this stuff, I had an issue, but the filament was breaking going into the head. And I was like, okay, it's got to be the moisture. So I just went ahead and swapped the filament out and purged it and went back to printing. And it's printed for 14 hours. Well, actually, I printed 3 of those. I broke one of them trying to cut it with a bandsaw. But I printed 3 of those big baskets and then the 4 legs, and it's worked fine. But yeah, Jeremy Jordan, I've been tempted to get my wife's dehydrator and use it, but I don't know that she'd be happy about me putting printer filament in her dehydrator. So I'm gonna have to get my own.
Radu the Impaler is saying that recommend OMTech over Momport for nothing else there in the U.S. They actually answer phones, speak English, and know what they're talking about. If not, they'll connect you. And that's fair. I mean, I've helped a number of friends with a variety of laser manufacturers, and even the ones that have US based support, it often is like you might get like a pre-sales technician that knows a little bit more than the salesman, but they often still hand you off to their manufacturer support, which tends to be often not US based. And so now you're often on like a FaceTime call and getting spotty connection and having some language barriers. So not to say that you aren't going to get better support. I think if you really want good support, yes, Thunder is a great company that has more of a presence in the US. OMTech has had more of a presence in the US than others. But don't 100% expect it. Like I say, I've dealt with some friends who have spent a lot of money on lasers with that expectation, and we still end up passed off to some of the other people that are not US based, and you still end up with those barriers. So, but yeah, that's after sales support is huge, and it's something that it's hard for us to speak to if we haven't had direct experience with it. So, so how high off the bed is your camera?
It's 20-ish inches. But they were asking the question about how I mounted it. This is how I mounted it. This is a 3D print file that I made that you take the camera and mount it inside the box and all that good stuff. I'm missing a part. Where's it at? No, that's it, I think. But this is the mount that, no, I am missing a part. Where in the world's my other piece at? Uh-oh, that ain't good. There's a piece that's supposed to be right here. It's not showing up. Hang on.
Well, they were more interested in how high it was, and you said it was about 20 inches.
Yeah, 20-ish for the fisheye. It depends a lot on the lens. If you don't have the same camera that I have, then you're going to need to go higher than that.
So I believe LightBurn still has the utility where you can kind of enter the camera specs, and they'll tell you about how high you should put it. But generally, you're going to need at least 16-ish inches for most of the 400 by
Actually, it was about
400.
16 and a half. I thought it was about 20, but I forgot I did change some stuff up with that box. So about 16 and a half. But I am using a fisheye. If you're having trouble getting it to calibrate, keep in mind the light exposure inside your enclosure or whatever will cause problems. So you may want to try to dim the lights or change the brightness however you can, whether it be turn the lights off and set up some other lighting or whatever. I mean, sometimes the lights will mess you up to where it won't calibrate. And if you're trying to do that, where it says honeycomb detect or whatever, turn that off. I don't know what that's supposed to be in there for, but I have never been able to get a camera to calibrate with that honeycomb. What's it called? Honeycomb something. It's in the when you're going to calibrate it. Hang on, let me look. Here you go. Oh crap! I'm gonna mess up one of my cameras. Never mind. Honeycomb detection. That's what they've got it called. Just turn that off. Do not leave that on.
Yeah, a lot of talk about food dehydrators for filament.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, see, we've got a dehydrator and we've got one of those vacuum sealers and everything too. So I mean, I've got the ultimate setup, but I don't know if my wife wants plastic filament in her food dehydrator. So I'll have to get my own.
Yeah, maybe best not to mix the two. Some of the filaments can be less than healthy for you. So
yeah.
But I'm trying to scroll through to make sure we didn't miss anything. So if we did, go ahead and drop your question again in the chat. I know we tried to jump forward to get caught back up, but sometimes that means we miss some stuff. But I think there was a question about my enclosure, and I've been making slow progress on it. I thought I had some paint that I could just use. I'm trying to at least get the inside painted, because I even brought rollers and everything out here. I was going to try to do that since I got the shop warmed up. But I'm going to have to probably go pick up some paint. So hopefully this week I'll grab some of that. I need to get that painted. I need to start adding my cutouts for my air, both inlets and outlet. And then we'll be mounting the camera, adding lights. But yeah, I'm hoping to, it's had to take a backseat to a few things that have come in. And we had some cold weather and my heater was down out here. So I didn't want to be in and out of here, pulling air out all the time, but things are kind of getting caught up. The goal is to have that running very soon.
Yeah. Radu, me and Steve both have had the 4040. I had the original 4040, and I think Steve and I both had the 4040 Pro Max, which is the most recent one. If you can get that Pro Max, it's a lot more rigid than the original 4040 was. But yeah, it's a good little beginner machine. It's a little more expensive than say like this guy here. I think it's around $1,000 for the Pro Max, but it's a very rugged machine.
You're a little high on it. It's about $850 for the Pro Max.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was $900 when I looked earlier. I looked when I was looking up. You may have had a better deal.
I know they had some deals on it over Christmas. I think this is the standard price right now, but yeah, $850 right now. But that's with the router, the 65 millimeter kind of trim style router, but it's not with a dust boot. So you'd probably want to add that on or look at some other options. But yeah, as far as a starter one, if you can afford that is one that you're not going to outgrow as quickly. And you can extend it lengthwise, so you can drive it up to like what, a 40-60 size or something like that.
I think it's a 60. It makes it a 40-60 or 60-40, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. What it adds some length to it, so you can get a little more life out of it that way. And yeah, I think as far as a cut your teeth on it and not outgrow it right away type of machine, that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, because it's actually got it's not ball screws, it's lead screws, but it is screw driven. The gantry on it, it was the weakest part back when I had the original 4040, but they have rebuilt the gantry and the Z axis on it, and it's solid. And that little spindle that I see with it, the basically like a Makita clone, it did a really good job. My buddy Bill's got mine. I threatened to get it back from him so that I can use my rotary tool and let him take this one to learn on, because so far he hasn't learned anything. So I'm thinking I may swap him so I can get my rotary, because I messaged Shipoko the other day to see if they were going to come out with a rotary for my big machine, but apparently that's not in the cards right now. So we'll see.
Yeah. Hey, Cody, good to see you here. Looking forward to being in your neck of the woods in a few weeks.
Yeah. It's just Steve's gonna go visit with Cody. That's
the plan. We're gonna try to connect.
Sorry, Cody. I don't have quite the same arrangements as Steve does. So close, but so far away. My bad.
Well,
but if you happen to be in the area, we'd love to have you stop by.
It helps that he's rather close to where my dad's at. So, I mean, rather close, being a lot closer than I am right now.
But now, Cody, are you going to be in Atlanta this year? Because if you are, we can have lunch then if Steve shows up this time.
I told you, all I got to do is figure out how I'm getting there. I've already paid for the.
If you can get here, buddy, I got you the rest of the way. It's like 3 or 4 hours.
Well, I'm gonna have to decide, because I'm not sure I want to drive all the way across the U.S. in winter.
Just hop your butt on the plane. Let me know when to pick you up.
Yeah, well, we'll have to talk about that and figure out, because I'm not sure I want to fly into Atlanta. Maybe I'll have to fly into Birmingham.
You can fly into Birmingham, and I'll pick you up on my way to Atlanta.
Yeah, so I might have to figure that out. So. I can't.
Cody was there. That's where I actually got to meet Cody in person there last year. So I guess technically you're just trying to catch up.
Okay. Someone had asked earlier. I think I probably scrolled past it, but they asked how we got into testing and reviewing these machines.
Accidentally.
And I can't find the question, but. Yeah, so I didn't really go into this with that as like a goal or anything. It was more just a side effect. So, what happened for me is I put out a variety of content on my own using my own equipment, and some of that were some early explanations of how my CO2 laser worked. Doing some certain fixes to it, leveling the bed out, doing some other maintenance on it. And then one company noticed that and said, hey, would you like to try running our tubes in your laser and doing an upgrade on that? And so, that came along. And eventually, with enough consistency and enough, apparently they liked what they saw, whether they thought we were smart and knowledgeable or goofy.
Or they just felt sorry for us.
Yeah. Some offers like, hey, would you like to try our stuff out? So it really just, you gotta kind of plant the seed first, saying, hey, I know what I'm doing and I'm sharing some information, or at least they want to see that you're sharing information. A lot of people are going to see it. Sometimes I wonder how some people get it, because there's some questionable uses of equipment at times.
Speaking of questionable uses, that is the very first laser video I ever put out. Like I said, I just shared it earlier. This was from 2022. And I had basically a bunch of people was asking me about the laser, because that was my setup. That is it. Like, I had no honeycomb. This is the most redneck setup you'll ever see in your life. But hey, I made enough money off of that one off. That was my original 10 watt, and I made darn commercial. I made enough money with that 10 watt to turn around and buy myself a 20 watt. See, that was the original jig right there that I made to do tumblers with, because that's back before the RA2. That's all you got right there was that rotary. So, but yeah, the shop was a lot different. And this is like, I know what you're thinking. What in the world were you thinking with this video? But yeah, that was some of my early projects from back in the day. That
I think that all the time with your videos.
Yeah, but yeah, that's it. That's how it started, and folks saw that, and like Steve said, I just was making videos, having fun. And the reason I posted that was because I was in a few groups, like some laser engraving groups. That's where I went to learn stuff. And people would ask questions about, I just put a picture of something I made. People would ask questions about, how did you make that? Or what did you do this? Or how do you got this set up? And I just started making videos rather than trying to type it out and show it to them. And then it just, it kept going. It got a little bigger and a little bigger and a little bigger. I had like 20 people watch the video. And the next thing you know, I had a breakout video and had like 200 people watched it. And it takes a while. So, and I have friends that would love to do what I do, but I'll tell you, it takes a lot of work, a lot of luck, and just persistence to keep it going. Because if I wasn't so obsessive and come out here all the time and did what I do, I probably would have never got to the point where I am today. Because it's easy to give up because the thing about it with me is, though, I never really intended on being where we are today. When I first started, I was probably a year into it before I realized, you know what, this is becoming a thing. So I really couldn't tell you how to get started doing it. It just kind of happened. I was checking my email one day and I get an email going, "Hey, we'd like for you to try out this laser enclosure." Because you remember the early days when you're getting enclosures and air assist pumps, and I wish I still get offers for them, but in the beginning, it is like literally all the peripheral stuff. And then you do those and it just keeps going and going.
Well,
bigger and bigger.
My first CNC or laser content on my channel. All right, hold on here. I'll have to show this now.
Well, like this. Go ahead.
Can you guess how old it is?
It's a guessing game. Let me see if I can figure it out. I'm not seeing anything. Oh, wow. Wow, that is Windows 95, is it not?
No, wow. I think that was so. This
was that maybe like XP? Maybe?
It was XP, maybe 7, but so this is the first content that was on my channel, and so this actually ended up being my first CNC machine, but this is when it was at my friend's house, and I was cutting out some model airplane parts. And so this is actually a foam airplane that I designed in probably in SketchUp at the time, and I think back then there was even a CNC plugin for SketchUp to create the G code. And so I brought it out to my friend's house.
That thing's made out of wood, right?
Yeah, it's made out of Baltic birch plywood, layered up and such. It's got a big old a 2.25 horse Bosch router on there. It very, very home built stuff. But this is from 2012. So that goes back a ways.
Yeah, see, my stuff back in 2012 wasn't anything to do with that. I've got some videos. I think I've got them hid. But in 2012, my content was nothing. Like, it was all work-related stuff for my work at the time. a little bit of video gaming stuff and drones, because I was doing drones back then.
And so
that was when they first came out with Part 107. I went and got me a drone and got my 107 and everything. That's pretty cool.
So
I'd tear that up.
This is basically what I was making was a couple of these flat plate. It's made out of Depron foam, and so it's a very rigid flat foam, but it's very light, and you could CNC it very well. And then we'd make these indoor airplanes, because this is in the dead of winter, you know, still wanted to fly, but we'd go do that inside. So let's see here. There's probably a young version of me. Of course, let's hide this somewhere in here. There we go. There's a younger version of me, my kids.
Wow, who's that kid?
Yeah. So that's what got me into this whole thing, was my RC hobby. I wanted to be able to create my own airplanes, my own kits, things like that. And so that drove into CNCs, but then that eventually also drove into getting a laser.
All right, I'm gonna raise your Windows 7. There you go. That is an old video back in the PS3 days, basically showing how to go into the machine and set up the MTU rate on your router to increase or decrease ping times, so that you could have a little bit better luck with your video gaming online. And that was some old school stuff right there. So it's as you can see by the black screen with the white letters. But yeah. So this was one of my very first videos, and I put that out back in, was it 11 years ago, to basically just so that some of the folks that I played games with could figure out how to do it. And it actually got 14,000 views.
Wow.
So yeah, it was pretty impressive back then. But I just thought that was actually, I think, my first tutorial video. But like I said, that was literally, it was just a suppository or depository or whatever you want to call it for videos. I did some others with a drone for, it was like 2015. So 2013 to 2015, it was nothing but just video game and drone stuff. No, Kyle, by the time my PS5 came along, I had actually gotten fiber. Well, no, I got my daughter, my oldest or youngest daughter has my PS5. I gave it to her back in 2022 or whenever I bought my sawmill. I quit playing video games and like started doing woodworking, and like it's sitting there for 6 months, nobody playing it. And my youngest daughter was like, "Oh, can I have the PS5?" So I was like, "Okay, you might as well, because this is gonna sit there and ruin." but I did have some pretty good. Look at that right there. This is my early video creations right here. That's in 2017. Yeah, that's right.
Are you?
Look at that young guy. Yeah, that was this is where I kind of cut my teeth on video editing back in the day, was playing around with the drones, just putting videos together for my drone stuff. And I actually got my commercial license and everything, started doing like, this is a video I did for a strawberry farm. Like I would just go out and do like B-rolls and stuff for people, farmers and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool, but that's where I learned how to edit what little bit I know about editing. So there you go.
Well, I could drag up the old drone stuff that I had that's pre-DJI as well, but there was a question. Don was asking a question about CNC or CO2 for acrylic, which makes more sense. And you can do it in both. As a matter of fact, speaking of old videos, of I have one of cutting. This is cutting Lexan. Now I was not using the right bit because I didn't have an O flute bit at that time, but we were trying to figure out what we could do with this. And this is kind of fairly thin material. And I was ended up making these little, they call them side force generators that go on the wingtips of the airplanes. So some of these came out and they were these really big, ugly ones. So I thought, well, what if we made them out of clear? So yes, you can cut it on a CNC, and there's much better ways than what this video shows. The
I've got a couple
gotchas
of videos on it.
are, you know, you're going to have to be able to hold down the material. You got to have the right bit. It actually helps to have a little bit of air assist on the bit to help blow out the chips as well. But you're going to be limited with the CNC in the tightness of the shape. So it's going to be limited to the radius of your bit. So if you're using an 1/8 inch bit, a 16th inch corner and rounded is the tightest you can get. So if you're wanting to do acrylic parts such as this star I did, that's going to be trickier on a CNC than a CO2. But if you're wanting to cut out larger signs and engrave them or maybe pocket them, then the CNC is going to be kind of your go-to. You can use either tool for them, but it just kind of depends on what you're going to be going for with them.
Yeah. Yeah, the CO2 is, if it's a small thing, the CO2 is the quick and easy way, no doubt. Because, like I said, I've done some engraving and stuff with the CNC. It takes a lot longer because you can't go. You have to be careful with your speeds and feeds with a CNC, or you'll wind up like melting it and causing all kinds of like weird swirly marks on the material and everything.
Jeremy Jordan Double J Patriotic Design. That's a name. Have you ever tried Wi-Fi USB adapters and lasers? I run all my software and VMs. All my current lasers are on Wi-Fi. I could use a USB over IP adapter, but more expensive. I haven't tried that. I know a few people have had some success with a variety of, like you say, USB over IP type things. I guess for me, I either have, I've got multiple USB ports and they're close enough, and I'll have, I actually just picked up another. We were selling some refurbished laptops at school, so I bought my old work laptop back to use as a portable device for lasering and such. So I guess I tend to default to that, but I know some people have played around with kind of making USB bridges over Wi-Fi with some success. I would only be concerned about, a lot of times these are streaming the data and it could get interrupted on any of those. And now you've at best are going to have to restart the job. At worst, you ruined your material. So definitely something to play around with, though.
David, I haven't had the B4 30 watt. I've had the B4 20 watt, which is the same machine. And matter of fact, Bill's got it over at his house because I had this fiber sitting here and I didn't need two of them. And it done a really good job. It's the work area fibers, like I said, are known for having small work areas. But I've made a lot of like marking serial numbers and stuff like that for people, and doing the business cards, the anodized business cards. Like you can blaze through those things, especially if you have the foot pedal for the B4. You can set that thing up to where you have a reference point. You just slide them in there, step the pedal, and go to the next one. It's really fast. If you really want to get fancy, you can get one of those rotary where it rotates the cards or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't batch that much stuff out.
I've seen a few people do those, and for productivity, that definitely looks like the way to go. If you're looking at the comm marker, do also take a look at the B6. You may like the platform a little better. It has the base. It isn't. They don't have the gimmicky handheld thing in the cage, but the base of the laser, the threaded insert plate, can actually be removed from the actual laser source. So you can separate those two. Gives you a little more flexibility, and the overall, it's it's a little bit lighter, a little more compact, a little bit nicer to use, and it adds in the autofocus, which once you kind of get that dialed in and know how to work with it, it is kind of nice. So there is a little bit of a price difference between the two, but they have the kind of the same series. They have a 20, 30, and 50 or so on that, and then also in the MOPA versions.
Yeah, Dave, you just got to get out there and get after it, man. If you got an xTool, you could make it the easy route and use XCS. They have a library of stuff that you can pick from. Material library makes it a little easier, and then once you get comfortable with that, you can move into LightBurn and start doing it there. But yeah, you just got to get in there and get after it. That's my advice to you. Persistence pays off.
Oh, I just realized something. I was wrong. There's a video earlier on my channel that was CNC cutting Depron. Goes back to 2011.
Mercy.
Yeah. Anyway.
I get most of my stuff off of Amazon, so really, like I said, somebody mentioned use the anodized tags. That's that's all I got. That's the biggest piece of anodized material I've got. There's probably something else bigger out there.
Oh. Well, we're 2 hours and 11 minutes into it.
Oh, yeah.
And I know we've got to work tomorrow.
Yes, I do. Unfortunately, for 290 more days.
I'm happy for you. All right, but anyway, yeah, it's getting late. We're past our 2 hour mark, so probably going to wrap it up. But wanted to thank everybody for stopping by and checking this out. Don't forget that next week, 7 p.m. Central Time, we are going to be doing the live stream as usual, but we have a big giveaway ready to go on. So it's going to be one you're not going to want to miss. You got to be here to enter and therefore to win. So we're looking forward to that, and hoping to be able to spread that out and give a lot of people some Christmas cheer. You got to stop doing that. But so yeah, we'll be back next Sunday, the 22nd, 7 p.m. We're going to be giving away a bunch of prizes and also sharing some fun stuff. Probably have a little time to answer some questions again next week as well. But looking forward to it. So take us away, Fake Steve.
You didn't like my Steve. I couldn't figure out. I wish I had like one of those selfie sticks that the cameras have where it disappears, where I could just like do my own little Steve videos. I could be like, get out of your shop and make something. Maybe you can get out in your shop and make something. Hey, you had to give me a little tan. I look a little yellow, like a little jaundice going on there. But yeah. But yeah, we appreciate it, guys. This is the last live before the big one, the 22nd. And so that's going to be the giveaway. We're going to have Cody's going to be giving us some bits. And just to give everybody the props before we go, let me throw this out here just so we'll know who all we're participating with. We're going to have some free stuff from, of course, Cody. He's in the room, or was, if he's still here. He's going to be giving away some little kits of Jenny bits. So if you have a CNC, that'll be something that you're going to be interested in getting. Also, LaserPecker, xTool, Atomstack, TruFlat, plywood, and Great Lakes Laser Supply have all contributed some free stuff for you guys. Like I said, we're going to have it broke down to where basically you're going to have like a different word or phrase for each thing, because if you don't want a TruFlat plywood, or if you don't want whatever, we don't want to water down to the winnings. Like if you don't have a CNC or don't care to have a Jenny bit, then we're going to have different phrases for each section, and we'll probably just randomly do them throughout the live instead of having to sit there for 30 minutes doing all of them. So we'll see how that's going to play out. But as far as I know, unless somebody comes up last minute, I've quit asking for these companies to try to participate, because now we're to the point now to where they're not going to be able to get it to us in time if they're going to send it. But I've still got one more I'm waiting on an answer from that could be a good one, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But I've also got some small stuff, as well as I'm going to be pitching in some Amazon cards. Y'all know I love the Amazon cards. So, oh, look, Steve has a graphic for that. That's what I'm talking about.
Had to dig for it.
You need to email me that so I can share that on my page. I was going to do that, but glad you did it. But yeah. But I'm also going to be giving away some Amazon gift cards, varying money. So, that way you can purchase whatever you want. So those guys that maybe you've been wanting to get that CNC, but you're, a little short, the gift card from the Clack Shack might be that extra $50 or $100 that you needed to get you there. So there's going to be some of that, but I'm waiting to see what all comes in before we go. Cody says send him that too. So, or just post it on your Facebook, Steve, and I'll share it from there or download it from there. How about that?
Yeah, I'll do that. I should probably add the date. This is one of the screens in that elf video. So
yeah, I saw it in the elf video, but I didn't know you had it in like a steel graphic. I guess I should have known. But we're going to try to do more of them in the coming up, months ahead next year, and then I will be retired this time next year. So there's a ton of what kind of foolery we can get into. So
cool.
But yeah, great graphic though. So, see, Cody got the Jenny bits on there. And I feel like there's going to be some of these companies going to be wishing they had participated when it's all said and done. But,
I hope so.
That's how that is.
We'll pull them in for the next one. So,
yes, sir. All right. Well, I've run my mouth enough. Steve, what you got?
All right. I've said it all. So we will we'll see you all next week. Thanks for hanging out, and hope if this is kind of the last week. A lot of people are wrapping up work and such. I know it's like it's finals week for us at campus. So I know next weekend's probably going to kick off the whole Christmas week for everybody. So we're looking forward to it. Hopefully everybody can be there, but stay warm, stay safe, and we'll see you next week.
Appreciate you. Y'all be good. And everybody, I think everybody needs a Steve on a stick. So send me the pictures of yours. Y'all be good, guys.
Later.